Welcome to another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, coming to you 6 days a week as we interview whitetail experts and hear their traditions and personal stories of the hunt. Learn more about the latest gear, discover proven tips, and the latest strategies so you can make your next hunt a success. Now, here's your host, Bruce Hutchin.
Yes, this is Whitetail Rendezvous, and this is the fall of 2019. And I know you'll hear this after this day, but if you didn't take off of work, you made a huge mistake. If you live any place near where that cold front's going to be, you should have called in sick on February 9th and 10th. That's all I'm going to say. And with me today is Brodie Megill and Taylor Kesler. And they're a couple of Michigan boys who just simply love to hunt whitetails. And we're going to talk about that today. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bruce. Thanks for having us. We really appreciate you bringing us on.
You're welcome. Taylor, what's this whitetail phenomenon? Why do you have an Instagram page?
Basically, we started this Instagram page to try and kind of show a little bit of what we're doing here in Michigan and basically display some of the success that we've had, some of the journeys that we're taking, just being able to show kind of the people what we're up doing.
Brodie?
We're here learning, really. And I think the Instagram page is just a mirror reflection of that and the things that we're doing, maybe not on an everyday basis because we're not hunting every day. We're just regular guys. We have two jobs, and hunting is not the only part of our lives, but it is definitely the most passionate part that for both of us. So we felt like documenting the things that we do, kind of giving a reason to take a picture or two, and we enjoy doing it. We like having the page, and we like checking out what other people are doing on social media as well, and it's important to have one.
Now, are you guys up on Facebook or YouTube, or do you have any other channels?
No Facebook page for me, and we actually just got the camera, and we're fixing to start doing some recording, basically just dealing with really old, ancient equipment so far, and nothing worth posting on the internet so far. So with this new camera, we're hoping to maybe throw up a YouTube page here soon and start recording the hunts that we do on a regular basis.
That's important, especially if you just want to share and help other people learn. They got to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not all grips and grins and look at me. It's, hey, we were on this hunt and we weren't successful, but it was a successful hunt because of X, Y, and Z. And we'll get into that on the show today. Taylor, when you think about hunting, in the warm-up, you said that you came from a hunting family, but you just really started getting into it the last few years. Why is that?
I would say I've had a little bit more time to sit in the woods and kind of just see what's going on, but then it seems to be more to it than just going out there and waiting for a deer to walk by. And there was a reason why this deer was here and why he came from this spot here. So I just think I took it upon me to start, reading a few books, wanting to actually learn a little bit more about the whitetail deer in general and just how they function on a day-to-day basis and the reasons that they do some of the things that they do.
What are some of the reasons that you have learned, and who has taught you those tips?
Like we talked about earlier, I did come from the hunting family, but it wasn't necessarily go out with my dad and sit in the blind. It was still kind of, he'd point me in the right direction, but just kind of sent me out on my own to learn the woods. And I'll say as the years go on and I've learned some of the properties a little bit better and kind of learned kind of where the deer started to come from, I just kind of became a lot more interested in it and wanted to learn. That's really what it was, is just trying to gain as much information as I can and go from there.
Is there anybody that you listen to on podcasts or Sportsman Channel, Pursuit Channel, or YouTube channels?
Yeah, so I follow Dan Infalt a decent amount, The Hunting Public, Jeff Sturgis. I've watched a lot of his videos on YouTube. It seems like he's got a lot of helpful information. It seems like he's a guy who has been around deer for a long time, and he's got tons of different strategies and different videos that seem very knowledgeable.
What's the one thing that sticks out that helped you be successful as a deer hunter? Just one technique.
One technique, I would have to say, basically during the rut, learning certain areas where kind of it started to click after, I saw a few deer here, and just after thinking about it a little bit and kind of learning and reading about some of these different scenarios, it seemed like with that, it's just trying to position myself in the right spot and just get into an area. It seems like the wind is something that is always a constant battle, trying to be in the right spot. But it just seems like, over time, kind of things start to click and lines start to connect, and you realize kind of why deer are doing what they're doing out there, I think.
Same question to you, Brodie. Who do you listen to, and what have they taught you?
I'm a big follower of Wired to Hunt. I really like what Mark Kenyon's doing. I think he puts out a solid message. He's not really afraid to show you what happened and why. It just seems like he's a real guy. I just read his new book. I think that's also something that everybody should pick up. That it's a public land book, and if you're not a public land hunter, I still think it reaches out to you as well. It's just an outdoor book. Other guys we listen to, obviously Dan Infalt. We know John Eberhart. He's got a lot of content out there. We've read his books. Pretty much anybody that puts deer hunting content out, I've at least dabbled with their podcast or their .com or pretty much anything out there, at least take a look at.
What's the one tip do you want to share on the show today?
I've been more focused on the beast style of hunting lately. I haven't been hunting very long, so I never really got a bad habit, if you will. But most of the people I knew hunting growing up hunt a spot. They go sit in a tree stand, and typically in Michigan before a few years, at least last year, they would sit over a bait pile. That's how my dad hunted, and that's how my grandfather hunted, and my uncle, and everybody that I knew hunted that kind of style. And in my opinion, at least in my very limited knowledge, that's not really hunting. I mean, you are out there and you are hoping to kill a deer, but it's tough to be successful on a regular basis that way. And following Dan Infalt in the beast style of hunting, looking for buck beds and studying terrain features and swamps and all of those things, I feel like are a point that I would stress to anybody who's just picking up hunting, not just sitting over a pile of bait and waiting for your buck to walk in. It's a lot deeper than that.
And yet thousands, if not millions of people, that's how they hunt. Myself, I've been to places that they've actually ruined their hunting territory because they said, we'll put bait out here, we'll put bait out here. And it guarantees their clients will see deer. They'll see does and small buck. If you're after a mature buck, not so much. Will it happen? Yeah, especially during a rut, all bets are off, as you guys know. But folks, I would simply share this message. If you want to hunt mature deer, you got to hunt mature deer, and they got to be on your property. And so it takes, I still get schooled every single year, and I spend a lot of time in the woods and tumbling because you go, dang, he got me. And that's just the way it is. But that's the fun of it. It really is. And that's the fun of it, because if we went out every time and shot a 150-plus deer, 4.5-year-old deer, it'd be, I think I'll take up golf. It wouldn't be the challenge. But needless to say, you guys are the future of hunting. Let's just segue into that. Why do you think a lot of people don't give a rip about hunting? And you have personal friends that you shared with me in the warm-up that don't give a rip about hunting.
It's tough to say why. I just think a lot of people are uninformed. I think people get a view of what they think hunting is because of a lot of different things, a lot of avenues that people will pick up. Like you said, you get on a whitetail deer hunting show and it's all kill shots and tracking and blood tracking. I think it's misunderstood a little bit. I think a lot of people don't really know how good food is afterwards. I think that's a very important part. I think that's another thing that in the future will be more important to people. I think it's a trend that a lot of people really care about where their food comes from, and factory farms and all that stuff is no good. And there's not a lot of better feelings than killing an animal yourself, cleaning it, and then cooking it and eating it, and all within a 24-hour period. It's a powerful feeling. I think a lot of people should just give it a try.
I think to add to that, some people, I know Michigan has a lot of hunters, but I would say that some people just never got the opportunity to go out in the woods, whether it be when they were a youth hunter or even some people my own age. They've just never been given the opportunity. They may not have had the land to go out on. And up until these last 2 years, we've got a couple thousand acres of public land right here in our backyard. And I didn't start exploring it maybe up until last year. And it's like some people, I think, just don't know about it.
Want to become a smarter deer hunter? Know when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Well, Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created to do exactly that, because many people have told me they struggle with spending all days in the woods and never seeing a deer, only shooting does and young deer, leaving the woods empty-handed way too many times. Found Mr. Wonderful, but just couldn't get on him, having difficult finding a place to hunt, recognizing possible mistakes you're making every year, having tried and failed to find qualified mentors who deliver results. If you had these frustrations or struggles, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com, and there you'll find a 13-module course to help you solve these problems. Again, go to deerhuntinginstitute.com and find some answers.
Both of you said that you're doing tethered sling harness, and I have not done that. So help my listeners understand what it is, what it isn't, and why it's really catching a lot of people interest.
First, I think it's pretty easy for a beginner just to pick up and do. The saddle it's an alternative to what tree stand would be or hunting on the ground. It gives you an elevated platform, if you will, to hunt deer from. There's a million different ways to skin the cat. There's all kinds of different gear modifications and climbing methods, and there's a million different ways that you can go about using the saddle. I personally think it's the best way to go if you're looking to be mobile. To do that, you just pack it into a backpack with your climbing method and you hike in. Now, if you get a Lone Wolf Platforms style stand, or Infault's coming out with his Beast style of gear, I'm sure that stuff is just as good. But this is just an alternative. It's light, it's easy to move around in, and it gives you an opportunity to hunt in a lot of different areas and different trees. It's just multi-purpose hunting.
Yeah, I would add it's something that even you can wear into the woods. You work your way slowly through an area, try to find some good sign, and then you just hang and hunt. It's simple. I think little experience with it in the field because this is our first year of using it, but I think it can maybe even help conceal you from deer. You're kind of keeping the tree in between you and the deer, so it just seems like instead of a tree stand where you're on the other side of the tree, right in front of the deer, it seems like you might be able to get a bow pulled back a little bit easier and get that shot that we're all looking for.
The example that he's saying there with using the tree as cover, we were actually just hunting Friday night and just hunting a private property we have access on, and it was a V-style tree, so it was split, and we were actually on the same limb on the right side of the tree. And if you would have been in a typical tree stand, you'd have had to be on the front side of that tree. We were on the back side, and the tree was between the deer and us. And at that point, it provides you opportunities to do all kinds of stuff. And we actually harvested doe that night, and I would say with a regular style tree stand, we would have been less likely to harvest that exact same doe.
So how does it work? Okay, I know what a hammock is, so I'm thinking it's really a mini hammock that you tether it to a tree, but you need climbing sticks, or somehow back in the day I would just climb up a tree. It's going to be a killing tree. I mean, and there's a whole talk to Infel about killing trees, or any really successful hunter. The first time they go in an area, they're looking for a killing tree. That tree, and then they find a tree, and then they see if there's any deer sign around it. They don't look for deer sign first. They find a killing tree first, and then...
Is that just something you're supposed to know, Bruce? That's just a feel you're supposed to have as a big buck killer, is that killing tree, you just know which ones those are?
Yeah, then you go ninja mode. You have to find... Okay, in my opinion, and everything I've learned from a lot of people and so myself, I have killing trees. And I only hunt them certain times, only hunt them so many times a year, but it's a killing tree because I know everything else being equal, if I hang there for 3 sits, and that's the most I'll sit a stand. That's it. And we have on our farm, we got a lot of stands, but I'll only hunt one stand 3 times. That's it. In afternoon, morning, and afternoon. Boom. Then I'm done with that stand because I have all the places that are funnel and pinch points for the rut where I just sit up all day. Now I sit on the ground, but in the past, I just sat in the stand all day, got in there dark and left it dark. and see what happens. But so killing stands are important. So now I found my tree. Now what the heck do I do? How high do I go? What do I do?
You asked what it is, and I would say it's most similar to like a rock climbing harness. Anything that you could think of that rock climbers would wear. You get a strap around both of your legs.
So it's a harness.
It's a harness. That's
I've rock climbed.
Yeah, it's just like that. And in terms of climbing methods, there's a million different ways. You could use your regular climbing sticks that everybody uses. If you're on private land, you can use screw-in steps. I personally, right now, use the Wild Edge step. It's a little difficult to describe, but it's pretty simple. They're very light, small steps. I think they're maybe 8 inches, 10 inches wide. And it's a simple knot that you put on one side and it cams over and it locks into the tree. I carry into the woods. I carry 8 of those steps, and I can usually get between 18 and 20 feet with those steps. And that's all the higher I think you need to be. Where I hunt anyway, I think 18 to 20 feet is plenty.
So what about your safety harness? Or your harness is your safety harness?
Yeah, your saddle is technically your safety harness. You tether to the tree and you use a carabiner and it just clips into the harness that you're sitting in. You can look on YouTube. There's hundreds of people that I'm sure have put videos up on it, but Godfrey puts out videos. He is the tethered saddle man, if you will. He puts out all kinds of videos, and he thinks that it's technically safer than what your regular tree stand harness would be, which moderately debatable, I would say. They're probably just as safe as one another, but your harness is your stand in this particular case using a saddle.
Yeah, because if I fall asleep, I'm in my harness. I'm not going anyplace.
Right. I haven't pulled a full nap in my saddle yet, but I've been pretty close, and I feel pretty comfortable with it, and I know plenty of guys that have slept in the saddle, and it's doable for sure.
Okay, so I get the part, it's my harness, my climbing harness, which I actually still have. How do I get a tether, though? Is that part of the harness?
Yeah, that is all part of the package. So when you order the saddle, you get a lineman's belt and the tether. So that lineman's belt, you wrap around the tree as you start going up the tree. And so, that keeps you connected at all times while going up the tree. And then you would place your platform down. And at that point, you'd put your tether around the tree, hook your bridge into it, and then get onto your platform, whatever it may be, and you're ready to hunt.
Do you want to become a smarter whitetail hunter, knowing when to hunt, where to hunt, how to hunt? Over the past 4 years, people have asked me, hey, I'm struggling with spending all day in the woods and never seeing a deer, only getting opportunities at doe or young bucks, leaving the woods empty-handed too many seasons. Located the deer of a lifetime, but just flat out missed. Having difficulties finding a place to hunt, recognizing mistakes that you're making over and over again, and you want to eliminate them. Having tried and failed to find qualified mentors. Well, you come to the right place. Why? Because Deer Hunting Institute Part 1 was created by me, Bruce Hutchin. It's a 13-module course that'll talk about being lost in the deer hunting forest, never hunted. What is a hunter? What is an adult onset hunter? What rules apply? Finding a mentor, choosing a weapon, finding a place to hunt, scouting a hunt location, stand sites, stand access and exit, reading sign, and when to hunt. All these are available for you at deerhuntinginstitute.com. Go now to deerhuntinginstitute.com and sign up for the best deer hunting course in America.
So I do have a platform for my feet. Is that correct?
If you want.
Correct.
That's one of the things that there's a ring of steps option as well, that they'll kind of like pegs in a ring around the tree. That's what some people go with. Predator platform is the one that Tethered, the company, makes as well, that goes with the saddle that we bought. There's multiple companies that are making different small style platforms, if you will. It's basically just like what you would think of on the bottom of a tree stand, just smaller, that you put your feet on.
But now I'm hanging out at whatever angle I want. No,
pretty much.
Okay, so
there's a sitting technique or a leaning technique. So sitting would be most of your weight is in your butt, and you put your knees up against the tree, and that's a sitting technique. And I do that about 50% of the time. And the other technique would be leaning, where most of your weight is on your feet, and you are at a 45-degree angle off of the tree, and most of your weight being in your feet.
How do I shoot? How do I draw my bow?
It's difficult to explain in a podcast, but it actually, once you see it and you try it, the shots are almost exactly the same as what you would be doing in a bow stand, in a traditional tree stand. And you just got to be comfortable making shots. It'd just be like a standing shot in a tree stand.
Because if I'm sitting down, okay, I can get that. I'm sitting down, so all the weight's in my butt, and then my knees are against the tree, so I got pressure on the tree, pressure on my butt, then I draw, and I shoot right-handed, so coming in from the left is good. Right is almost impossible, right? Or wrong?
I would say you can make the shot to the left. Your weak side shot is what you're saying in particular would be more difficult. And it is more difficult, just like it would be more difficult in the tree stand. But you just pivot, you move your weight, and you'd have to lift your bow over your rope, if you will, over your tether.
Right.
Taylor, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, a couple things. So I will say shooting from a saddle compared to a tree stand, certain shots seem almost easier because you do have your knees or some weight against the tree, and just seems like it can hold you into the position that you need to shoot pretty well. I haven't tried this a whole lot, but I have seen a couple guys standing on a platform to shoot a weak side shot. Seems like a lot of movement, but they basically rotate all the way around the platform to where you don't lift your bow up over your tether, but you rotate 180 degrees around, and your tether would be like a seatbelt on you, and then you can shoot. So I've done it a little, but I wouldn't feel comfortable doing it on a deer, but I think with more practice, it could be another easier way to shoot a weak side shot.
Because I see the flexibility. I mean, you have to be flexible, pun intended. No, it's not a pun. But if you're flexible enough, I mean, the tether, if you got it set up right, you don't have a blocking limb doing it, so you can't pivot. But the pivot's the whole thing, and I could pivot and put my tether over my head, and now it's just a regular shot. The weak side shot went away, and I'm just drilling it from the left, my strength here.
Correct.
On the left side. Not that I'm ever going to try it, because I probably won't, but you got me thinking, because I actually could do this off the ground.
Exactly. And that's how they recommend you start.
I don't even have to do anything, except I would be just a couple of feet off the ground. I take my spider harness. I just take my tether off that. I take my climbing belt. I wonder if it still fits. But then I just throw that up. I clip it in, and because I shoot a crossbow, so then I can pivot. Yeah. If the buck comes in the right way, and if I see him at the right time, I can pivot, because I said, okay, he's going to cross left to right. He's going to cross right to left. Boom. Smoke him. Interesting. I'm glad you guys are on the show.
We're glad to be here.
Not that I'm going to try it tomorrow.
You should. You should try it. Just put it up against the tree. I'm sure if you got a hold of those tether guys, they would let you demo their model. It's cool, man. I really think.
Yeah, but I think I'll just use my climbing harness. I'll just my climbing harness and clip in my tether for my spider safety vest. Just take that.
I see what you're talking.
Yeah, my brain's flipping, because I know plenty of places I don't have to get far off the ground at all, especially with a dead tree that's fallen over. So it's already fallen over. I just claw into that. I'm hunting from a dead tree, a root ball type of thing. I'm already 4 feet off the ground. I throw that thing in. Now I got a lot more flexibility.
You might be onto something there, Bruce.
Just saying. You heard it first on Whitetail Rendezvous. Oh, you guys are fun. So we talked about guys and gals that aren't hunting. We talked about organic food. We talked about being tethered. Let's talk about just advice to new hunters. You've got a new hunter. You met them in a bar. You're working with them. You're having coffee. You just bumped into somebody and said, man, I'm interested in this hunting, blah, 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 blah. What would you tell them? Guy or gal?
I would offer to take them with you. Just come on along on an adventure and see what you think about it. maybe take them on a little public land trip and see if just the woods is something that they're interested in. And I would almost guarantee that you get most people out there, they're probably going to enjoy themselves. Now, there's plenty of people, but anybody who's listening to your podcast would know being outside is something special that you can't take for granted. And I think just taking them along is a great start for anybody who has never been out there before.
Yeah, and I would say to someone who is new to hunting and just starting out, I would say don't get down on yourself. There is a learning curve to this. It's going to take time to figure out how deer operate. And then I would also just say, don't wait for the right buck. I mean, I think you do have to start out by shooting some deer. I don't think you got to wait for the 170-inch Boone and Crockett deer that everyone talks about with the QDM. I mean, I am all for it, but I think you've got to learn. I think you have to get a few kills under your belt before you can go start chasing mature deer. I think you've got to start a little lower on the pole before you raise your bar all the way to the top.
Realistic expectations. The only way to practice killing deer is killing deer. I am by no means a big buck killer. I've killed very few deer in my life, but the only way to practice killing deer that I know of is to kill deer.
Very smart. And the other thing I'm going to add on that, hey, folk, it's your hunt. Brenda Valentine told me this years ago. Bruce, it's your hunt. It's your tag. Kill whatever you want to kill. Eat it, be proud of it, and enjoy it. And we'll talk more about this coming in the winter shows ahead. But if somebody jumps on you on social media and says, oh, why did you kill that little deer? Just unfriend them. Just block them. They're not your friend. And we got to stop that. Johnny Utah and I talked about that at length on his podcast lately, because we're all in this together. And if you want to kill 5 does, 10 does, and you should for good management, go ahead and shoot them, because people eat that. They eat great. And then if the first buck you see, it's a spike buck and it's legal in your state and you haven't killed many deer, shoot it, because then you'll learn to calm down, pick a spot, aim small, miss small, do all the things you need to do. And just like Brodie said, there's only one way to learn to do that, and that's to kill deer. Period. You can't do it to target. You can't do it with 3D. You can't do it any place. You have to get in the woods. You have to have a deer come by your stand, and you have to go, okay, I'm going to kill this deer, and go through your routine, muscle memory, let it take over, hit the deer, follow up the deer, get the deer, carry the deer out, process the deer, and eat the deer, and you're going, dang, that was fun.
It's a great feeling, Bruce. It is a great feeling, and I think if a lot of people would try it, just give it a chance, I think a lot more people would think like we do.
Yeah. Taylor, your thoughts?
I'm right there with you. I think, like you said, if you've got the tag and you want to fill the tag, then that is your right. I think there's no room for criticism. Like you're saying, we're all on the same team. There's no reason to belittle someone for shooting the deer that they could be proud of. It could be their first deer for all you know. So I'm right there with you on that page and agreeing on that.
Hey, Bruce, I think what you're saying, we're all in this together, is really important. This is not something that's guaranteed to all of us. Anybody who's listening to your podcast that's interested in hunting has to understand that this is not something that is definitely guaranteed forever. There's small cuts being made to hunting and land access and all those things on a daily basis. So if it's something that everybody wants to do and you want your kids to do and you want your grandkids to do in the future, we really do all need to be on the same page and really all march to the same beat, if you will.
Well said. Well said. So as a new hunter, Brodie, you had no hunting tradition at all. Why do you even start?
I was looking for a competitive outlet, really. It's being a sports player in high school, that's just something that is in your blood. I'm just competitive. I like challenges, and I like trying to get better every day. And being in Michigan, I'm aware of hunting. Growing up, my dad was a deer hunter, but I wouldn't say he was very passionate about it. Grandfather, similar. Most of his stories were more drinking stories than they were hunting stories, but it's a competitive outlet. And then you start getting more interested, and I love learning. So I started picking up more material and reading material and listening to the podcasts and whatnot. And once you understand the depth of it, it's a challenging sport. It's not something that you can just go. I was saying to Taylor the other day when we were in the stand, I was like, man, I think killing deer should be a lot easier than it really is. And it's not as easy as what you see.
Wait till you try elk hunting. I know I'm talking over. Wait till you start elk hunting. You can be 10 feet from an elk, 15 feet yard from an elk, and you won't get them just because of the cover.
Humbling.
Yeah, all the time.
That's pretty much it. I mean, now that I'm willing to and able to do it on my own and afford it with a job, obviously beforehand you have to worry with your parents paying for things, but now that I can spend whatever kind of money I want, most of it goes towards hunting and buying new equipment and all kinds of stuff. It's a way of life. It's not just a weekend thing and something that consumes my thought process on a daily basis. I think me and another one of our buddies who hunts with us pretty regularly, we're constantly in a group chat talking about deer, sending trail cam pictures. It's definitely more than just a hobby. I would say it's trending towards an obsession at this point.
From this guy, it's not a bad obsession to have. That's for sure. Once you get focused and want to have the adventures and you meet so many neat people and then you travel and you do all those things. And after a while, it just becomes, yeah, did I shoot that mountain goat or that wolf or that? Yeah, I did. But the people I met along the way, just incredible experiences that I can look back on. And yeah, the kill is part of the memory, no question about it. But then you go and the sunrises and sunsets and campfires and stuff like that, you just go, oh my goodness. I've been able to be some places where probably not 100 people have ever been in North America. That's really cool.
That's really cool.
That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me young. And everybody, all my buddies said, why do you hunt so much? I said, it keeps me out of the couch or watching TV all the time, and I can't play golf anymore. And it keeps me young and it keeps me going places. You know, I just got invited by the governor's office to go up to the Minnesota gun opener in Fergus Falls. And I have no idea of the people I'm going to meet up there, but they know of the show and stuff and said, hey, would you like to come? And I said, sure. And so I'll go meet hundreds of people that I would never have met any other way but through deer hunting.
Hey, thanks for listening to the show tonight. Before we go, can I take a moment and say thank you? Listen, as we started the Whitetail Rendezvous podcast journey, we had no idea what to expect. But after 4 years, we received a ton of feedback from our over 400,000 listeners and climbing to 500,000. Speaking of which, we are now closing in on over 600 featured guests. Thank you. And a quick shout out to all those who have left an iTunes review and your feedback. I get those and really appreciate it. And it's awesome to see what you have to say, and we do read every single one of them. And I just want you to know that I am incredibly grateful for your kind words regarding the show. And all of the ratings and reviews help us attract more listeners. And if you're one of those new listeners, welcome. Great to have you. By the way, if you haven't taken the time to rate and review our show and like the Hunting on Private Land strategy on how to get permission to hunt a private property, go to whitetailrendezvous.com as a special gift for just rating and reviewing our show. When you get there, look for the start button to get the details. Listen, I'll share you the top technique from some of the top hunters in the country on how do they get permission to hunt on private land. I'll share with you the exact techniques they use to get permission. As my way of saying thanks for rating and reviewing the show on iTunes. So join us next time. And remember, we're all on this journey together, learning, sharing, and becoming 365 hunters.
Hunters are a passionate bunch of people. I think, like I said, they just get a bad rap. I think the mainstream way of thinking is just we're kind of like a bunch of barbarians who just love killing stuff. And like you said, it's so much more than killing animals. It's a lot deeper. And like I said before, I think a lot of people just give it more of a chance would see a lot more benefit from it.
Taylor, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the kill is great, but I think it's the journey along the way, the people you meet, the time you spend sitting around a campfire talking about how you almost had that buck and you just needed, one more step and you could have had a shot. But I would say it's just along the way, making those memories, like you said, watching the sun come up, getting to see nature, and hopefully see a deer come running along as well.
So what do you guys think about future of hunting? We got at least 40 years, if not more years between us. So I've seen whitetail hunting go from traditional Wisconsin 9-day gun season to archers now. I could be wrong, but they're killing a lot of deer in Wisconsin. And so it's all changing because public land versus private land, all those issues, it never was an issue when I started hunting in 66. We did deer drives, and we go from farm to farm to farm to farm, and we'd stop and knock on the door and say, hey, we're going to make a deer drive. You want to join us? You want to stand? You want to push? What do you want to do? And he said, no, you guys go, or heck yeah, let me grab my gun. And we'd have 20, 30 people doing deer drive, and just incredible. And it all worked out, and everybody had meat, and we'd have a big feast at the end of the day, and we do that for like 3 days. It was completely different because we didn't sit, and we just did deer drives. You might sit for an hour in the morning. You might. And then things all change. But today, public land hunting gets crowded, and then more and more guys get together and say, okay, let's buy this 40. Chicago, Illinois is known, Pike County, and then Buffalo County up in Wisconsin. Guys spend a bloody fortune just to have the right to hunt deer for 45 days. A bloody fortune. And it's like, oh my gosh. And hey, I'm happy for the farmer. That's money not to do anything except light some guys, pull their trailer and go hunting. So that's okay. But from your standpoint today, what do you see? What do you hear? I want your thoughts. Taylor, why don't you start us off?
Well, I would say pretty fortunate growing up that my family does have a lot of private land. So like I said earlier, I didn't really even go onto the public lands because I had other places to hunt, but trying to explore and expand my hunting areas and just the different terrains that I hunt, trying to look at different out-of-state leases, or even in Michigan, just looking at some of the prices, it does seem like you get a group of guys that they spend a couple $1,000s, like you said, just to go hunt through bow season and into gun season. So I personally haven't experienced a ton of that, but it does seem like it is becoming a lot more difficult to get out and get permission. Seems like there's a few guys out there that talk about the going door to door, knocking, never paying for leases, just hunting on gained permission. But I personally haven't had to do a lot of that, but it does seem like it is something that has become a lot more difficult just because, like you said, there are more guys willing to go and pay that money, whereas the regular working guy, something that I can't necessarily, afford right now. So it seems like it might be difficult.
I think the future of hunting really, access is important, and I don't disagree with that. And I think having land to hunt is also important. But I really think the future of hunting comes down to hunter recruitment and getting more younger people out there and doing it. Everybody knows that as technology advances, people get more reliant upon it. And that kind of flies in the face of the outdoors and in hunting in general. People get away from going outside and they'd rather sit at home and play Fortnite for a few hours instead of going out and try to kill a deer. I think that access is important, but I think if you get people out there willing to do it, if you're people to get out there and hunt, people who are passionate about it, and it's something that's very easy to get passionate about, I think that's the most important step we need to go in the future, is just getting more people out there to do it. If you get more people out there, they'll find spots to hunt. The land's not disappearing. It may be more difficult to get on, and the public land might be a little bit more crowded. But I think the numbers of hunters is something that needs to be focused in the future.
We got to wrap up now. Any final thoughts?
It's a learning experience. Everything we're doing nowadays is learning. Even hunting on a daily basis is learning new things every day, and being on this podcast is learning. So I really appreciate you having us on. I really enjoyed talking to you, and you never know, maybe we'll get on again in the future.
You betcha. Taylor?
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. I enjoyed it. Learned a few new things, and kind of would like to put a couple other things towards going out west, maybe doing a elk hunting trip sometime in the near future. It's a little different than the whitetail hunting, but I can always find a new love You never love too many things.
That's for sure. Well, on behalf of hundreds of thousands of listeners of Whitetail Rendezvous, thank you, Brodie and Taylor, for being guests. And folks, reach out to them at Whitetail Phenomenon, Instagram. And have any questions at all, reach out to me at whitetailrendezvous@gmail.com. We always will answer your questions. And it's hunting season now. This will air sometime in February. So it'll be wintertime. So if you do have questions, I can get you a hold of Brodie and Taylor. So on behalf of you guys, have a great time this fall hunting. Send pictures, and I wish you both well.
Thanks, Bruce. Happy hunting.
Thanks, Bruce. Good luck this year.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of Whitetail Rendezvous, where you can listen and learn from the experts so you can be more successful on your next hunt. Until next time, listen, learn, and succeed.